Hello everyone and welcome back to the Real Estate Center video experience. This video is going to be part of the Real Estate Center University series, where we continue to grow a path as to how you too can learn how to invest in real estate, the best methods, tips, and tricks. Today's a little bit special because we're going to be shooting a couple videos, and we're actually going to be bringing on some of our biggest success stories, people who have gone through these methods and these techniques, and they're going to be sharing kind of their experience and outlook on how this all works. But first, you're going to have to endure about learning on what to do next. So in the last couple episodes of the series, we covered off why do I think real estate is a good investment, and I hope you agree. In the second episode of the series, we went over how to structure a proper real estate team and how to go about what to look for in each professional in every category. In this one, we're going to cover off probably the most popular question amongst our clients and amongst our listeners and viewers, which is, okay, I have my team, I believe in real estate, I kind of have my capital ready. Where do I go from here? Where do I start? What type of investment do I go down looking for? And I'm going to kind of give an overview of the 5 major components, the 5 most popular strategies that people use, and what you need to consider as far as pros and cons of each strategy, and how does each one of those pros and cons impact your own personal circumstances. All right, so strategy number 1. Strategy number 1 is pre-construction, and this is going to be a very brief overview of the 5 different methods, and we're going to be doing entire episodes on each section where we're going to be breaking down all the details, the exact pros and cons of every investment style. But as far as where to get started, I think this is going to give you enough to just kind of pick and choose the general direction that you're going to be heading in. Number 1, pre-construction, as we said. The benefits of pre-construction: it's completely hands-off. It is very passive. You basically put a deposit down with a builder, and you wait for the unit to be built. You're investing in current market conditions, so the price as it is today, and you're of course investing in the future growth of the area that you're investing in. The deposits are typically paid out in increments over time, so with that being said, you don't have to come up with a huge number of dollars today. You're going to have anywhere between 90 days and maybe even up to 2 years in some cases to put your entire deposit down, and the typical time of completion is between 3 and 4 years for high-rise condominiums, and anywhere between 1.5 to 2.5 years for low and mid-rise. The considerations that you have to take into account is that your funds, once you give that deposit over to the builder, those funds are not coming back to you until the unit is complete and you have closed on it. So you will have no liquidity within this investment at all. Number 2, you're buying off a floor plan. You're not actually looking at the bricks and mortar. So the very big thing to consider is that when you're getting into this kind of investment, look into the background of the builder. Maybe go visit a few of the sites that they've built before. Make sure that they're experienced. Make sure that they've definitely done the type of investment that you're going into before they can complete it. And take a look at the finishes. Did they skimp out? Did they cut corners? Talk to a few of the occupants now and see kind of what their feedback is for the builder and the building itself. Typical cost of entry as far as pre-construction is concerned, you're looking at anywhere between 15 and 20%. So depending on which market you're entering, it can be a little bit nibbly if you're in the bigger centers such as Toronto, New York, Chicago, but there is hundreds of cities in North America that you can participate, get the same type of returns, and keep that budget a little bit lower. All right, big number 2, the income property. The income property is by far the most popular way to invest in real estate. That is when you are buying, whether it's a detached home, a semi-detached home, or duplex, triplex, or quadplex. They have many different names in many different markets. The bottom line is you're buying typically a single family home or a 2-family home, and you're renting it out to tenants immediately for cash flow. So you're making an investment, you're buying a house. Let's use $300,000 for a single family home. The property has a basement suite. You're going to rent it out to a family upstairs, potentially a couple or smaller family downstairs, and it's going to give you the fundamentals of real estate investing, which is appreciation over time. It's going to give you cash flow today. It's going to give you security against vacancy because you have more than one tenant in each home. And of course, your tenant is paying your mortgage and expenses down while the property appreciates in value, creating a duplicate effect on equity. Considerations that you have to think about is that this is an active style of investing. You are now a landlord to real families that are going to face real issues and crises. If there is a windstorm or flood, or there's any type of natural disaster, your phone is going to ring within minutes, simply stating that you need to take care of this house. The shingles fell off the roof, there is water coming into the property, they lost their jobs and they can't pay their rent. So you're going to have to be ready and trained to take some of these challenges on, which always goes back to having a powerful team that sits beside you and with you and helps you get through these issues. Typical cost of entry is anywhere between 15% and 25% of the total purchase price, depending on the financial regulations of where you are. Again, Canada right now, you are looking as an investor 20% down to get into the property. The typical cost of entry across Canada right now would be just under $100,000, as the average price for a property is about $500,000. Number three is a really popular way of investing in real estate as well. We are talking about student housing. We are talking about a need that will always need to be fulfilled since the beginning of time. Every single time we send our children off to school, we expect them to be in proper housing, doing their homework, feeling great, and being healthy. That has increased over time as far as student housing has evolved from simply renting out a basement near campus to mega structures with full amenities, hosting international students, domestic students, of course, and kind of creating an experience for students and an environment of learning and caring that has never before been seen. This is a very passive or active style of investing depending on property management arrangements. If you live close to campus yourself and you feel you can take on such a project, it is not difficult, but it is demanding. You're going to have 4 different students or 2 different students in one property, which means you have 4 different tenants pretty much in one property. They don't always get along. Again, you have higher use of the infrastructure of the home, so the toilet gets flushed 4 times higher than normal. The water is running 4 times higher than normal. The fridge door is opened 40-50 more times per day. So you have a little bit higher repair, maintenance, and looking at your scheduling on things of that nature. You're going to have a tremendously higher cash flow than any other investment type, only because you're getting almost retail rents from each of the students, and you're going to have multiple in each door. These are typically located in AAA locations. Obviously, they're going to be beside universities. Universities are always built around infrastructure, so they're accessible. Of course, you have tremendously low eviction rates because as your students are coming in, you're typically having the leases guaranteed by the parents, grandparents, or guardians. So there's always that extra sense of security on the lease, and it's a lot better and more stable over time. As far as any of the considerations just off the bat, you do have turnover you have a lot more turnover than any other asset class because every 4 years they're done school, and in most cases they'll move at least once during their tenure at the university. So you are looking at typical terms of 12 to 24 months, and it's always in and out. As far as the typical cost of entry, depending on the property that you choose, you're looking at anywhere between 20% down for sure as far as financing. In some cases, a lot of the banks don't actually prefer to do student housing deals, so you are going to have to speak to a specialist in your region about how to best finance these types of deals, because banks don't like the high turnover of the leases. They're obviously huge fans of the cash flow, but just the fact that there's consistent turnover, unless you have professional property management, they would more than likely say no to you. But depending on your team, it's actually quite easy to manage. All right, number four. Number four is a little bit of an advanced strategy into getting into real estate, only because you have to have a little bit of a better understanding of the economics of the market you're investing in. I'm going to talk a little bit about equity deals and ways to invest in real estate using registered funds. And that doesn't matter what market you're in North America, whether in the United States you're using your 401k, or in Canada your RSPs. There is many ways to invest in real estate via your registered vehicles. The most common way to do so is via going into real estate investment trusts. REITs have been around for quite some time. They offer a secure and stable dividend. They're typically comprised of, the majority of their portfolio is in commercial and retail holdings, and then the other good portion will be into the multifamily and apartment space. The way they offer a return is they consistently buy and they consistently grow, and as those markets that they're in mature, they keep turning over the real estate investment into new ventures and taking out the rewards of the past. Questions that you want to ask any REIT that you get involved in is you want to understand their management team and focus, how aggressive they are into the marketplace, where they would position themselves as far as risk is concerned. But as far as considerations for you, you're not typically tied into long periods of time unless you get into investing in land development, where those can be a bit longer. But your typical real estate investment trust has an exit of anywhere between 12 and 36 months. Some of them are fully liquid and publicly traded, but most private real estate investment trusts will have an exit sketched out within 1.5 to 3 years. I don't think cost of entry, you're looking at typically $30,000 or more, so it is very popular if you have a small savings on the side that you're trying to get positioned to the market. But other than that, you're not going to have too much more other than actually doing the math and doing the homework on the specific investment. Last but not least, numero cinco, number five. Number five is very famous. It's called lease to own. It's called rent to own. It has many different names in the marketplace. A lot of people talk about it. It's actually not as easy as people make it sound. The concept of it is fantastic. The practice of it is fantastic, and that's should it be structured properly. This one, you need a few professionals tied in with you right off the bat. You need a strong lawyer who's familiar with the process. You need a realtor that understands both the needs of tenant buyers and investor landlords. You're going to need definitely an inspector to take a look at the property today and kind of give and gauge the life of all the things in the home over the next 3, 4, or 5 years, because that's typically the term. Rent to own, the premise and the fundamental of it all is the fact that there's a buyer here today that wants to get into home ownership. Either they do not have an entire deposit to qualify for financing at the bank, they may have lower than average credit, which doesn't enable them again to get financing for their own mortgage, and they need that little help and boost to get into property ownership today and close on it in the future. So why would anybody do anybody a favor and buy them this property? The answer is you're not doing anybody any favors. What you're going to do as an investor is you're going to buy the property for the tenant buyer, and you're going to agree today. So let's call the property is worth $300,000 today. You're going to use a simple formula like 5% appreciation, which is the historic, and you're going to do a deal that in 3 years, this tenant buyer is going to take this property from you with a 5% per year increase. So let's keep the math simple. We're talking about $15,000 per year. The end contract and the exit strategy for the investor is that they're going to be selling this property in the 3-year term for $345,000. What has happened over the course of the 3 years, you also have the benefit of the tenant buyer paying down your mortgage. So however you structure the financing, those payments all went against your equity. So you're going to come up at the end of it with equity on top that is guaranteed, and your tenant buyer is sleeping easy every night knowing that they have a clear and exit strategy. They have the hope and typically the proof in the marketplace that the market moves a little bit faster than that number, so they may have some baked in equity at the end of it if the market did perform a little bit better than 5% per year. The huge advantage to the landlord is that you have a tenant that is invested in your property. It is not uncommon for us to have the tenant buyer come in after 6 months or a year asking to put an addition of a deck in the back. For them to ask, are we allowed to fix up the kitchen a little bit? Finish part of the basement. These are things that are non-existent in real tenant-landlord relations. So to have the kind of luxury, to have that kind of a tenant in your property, to have a tenant that typically has a $10,000 or $20,000 deposit down on your property is a luxury that you wouldn't otherwise have. Just to close this off, because we are going to do an entire episode of this on lease to own, and more than likely interview a lawyer and a broker who does these commonly. I'm going to leave you with a typical cost of entry being, again, your regular and consistent 20% down of regular bank financing, because it is going into your name. And the biggest consideration you have is that the market may really outperform your fixed return, which that is what has happened in our local market. But it's a 3 to 5 year term. In real estate years, that's a couple days. So this is not a long-term tie-up with a clear exit strategy. As usual, I would like to thank everybody for watching. I appreciate the time that you spent on our channel. I hope we have been of value. If so, please share this video. If so, please subscribe to our channel, and you will always be the first to get notified when we upload new content. We are going to be getting into the more specific types of investing in the weeks to come. We are going to be covering off buy and hold, income properties, student housing, all the things that you heard here today, but in complete detail with all the pros and cons laid out for you. Please hit the button below to subscribe, and again, please like and share. Until next time, Simeon Papailias, Jas Takhar, The Real Estate Center.